Hey, welcome back to A Faster Me. Shout out to Jack Rue for our amazing kits and Freak Shake for our hydration. This video here is going to be the La Copa Chula Vista Omnium, and this is day one. This is going to be Hunte Parkway. This is the women's P123 race. It was a beautiful, great racing weekend of racing, highly contested, a lot of action. It was really fun. I mean, I think usually these races have some pretty low turnouts. We had the decent numbers this weekend, and in the women's field, they weren't really large fields, but the women's field had some of the most racers out of any field. On day one, I think the Masters field was the biggest because they had the fields combined, so they had about 70 plus riders in that field. But other than that, the women had 20 people each day, and a lot of times these fields are really small. Sometimes there's only 15, 18 people, and the women had good turnout on both days. Day two, I think day two is even more amazing than this one, so please, when I get that video out, take a look at that video. You guys are going to love it. It's on a purpose-built crit course. So I think, you guys will love that video, and I think you'll like this one as well. Honestly, this is my first time watching this one all the way through. Because I had so many videos to do this weekend, I think I have 5 videos because I had 5 different camera angles. I'm gonna merge some of them that are in the P123 race for day 2, but then I have the 4 or 5 races also. So I just recorded them and put the stats on them and stuff without watching them. And now that it's time to throw a video out, this will be my first time watching this one. I did watch day 2 though, because it was just exciting to me. So, I had to check those out. So anyway, in this race, or this whole weekend for the P123 race, we only have Marlena and Elisa out there. And, it's a really good competitive field. Not a lot of teams out there. I think the mommies are the only one with like a full team. And I say full, but on day 1, I think they only had 3 riders, maybe 4. And then day 2, I think they had 6 or 7, which is great because I think, that's why we get teams. That's why people want to be on a team. We need to get our teams out there and race. So I had 2 girls earlier in the 4-5 race and 2 in the P123 race. So, and then we have, I think, CFT has 2 riders with Felicia and Morgan. PRT has a couple riders. Maybe SDBC. And then we have a few riders out there just riding solo, like Alexa's riding solo with LABA, and Linda Cruz is riding solo with Butcher Box. Hopefully I'm not missing anyone. Evelyn's out here from Endure. So anyway, it's a pretty good field. You see one of the SDVC riders, I think, is leading the pack here. And honestly, on day 1, we always have a plan, but our plan was pretty passive on day 1. Marlena's just coming back from racing. She tried to race Boulevard for her first race back, which was brutal. She ended up not finishing that race, only did a couple laps. So she's just trying to get her race legs back. Elisa's been having, she's been racing, but she's been pretty much nonstop since Redlands. She did a big training block to lead up to Redlands, and then she did Redlands, then a race with us, maybe not a race with us. Then she did Tour de Bloom right after, and then came back and, did Boulevard and all that. And then she was in San Francisco this whole last week and has about 23 hours of riding in her legs already. So yeah, a little bit of heavy training for Elisa coming into this one, and then Marlena just getting back into racing. So our game plan this weekend was pretty passive, and we know we didn't know who was going to do what this week, because anytime there's pretty good climbs on a course, this is pretty much a circuit. It's about a 3-mile lap, so this is not a crit. Day 2 is a crit, day 1 is a circuit, and anytime the road goes up, has a lot of elevation, you just never know who's going to be able to have an impact on the race, because a lot of our races are so flat. So a lot of the smaller girls that have like a little bit less power, it doesn't benefit them on the flats as much, but it definitely benefits them with the power to weight ratio on the roads like this that have like pretty good inclines. So this is the first time they just made the U-turn. This would be the first time going up the climbs, and this climb is kind of like a stair step. It goes up, I believe there's 3 little sections. Maybe it's 2. It's either 2 or 3. It goes up now, then it flattens out, then it goes up again. And then I think it goes up again right before the U-turn also. So yeah, it's kind of like a 3-tier climb here. So as you can see, Elisa, I'm sorry, and I have Elisa's camera angle. Marlena does not have a camera on today. But you can see Elisa's sitting second row, and she's still doing 330, 290 to about 330 watts. So you can see at 6-7%, it's a pretty steep climb, even though they're not going that fast. It's still a pretty good effort. We got lucky with the weather. There was supposed to be a little bit of rain this weekend, and this is the last race of the day. I think this was at 2:30 in the evening, or the afternoon. But yeah, the weather wasn't that bad. It was pretty windy though. So going uphill right now, they're actually going into a pretty stiff headwind. So it was off and on cold. Just depends on if the sun was out and if the wind was blowing. But yeah, there's definitely a stiff headwind here. Yeah, and this, like I said, this course with the kind of steep incline that it has, or the amount of climbing that it has, it definitely does suit different people pretty well. And I think overall, just some of those people that kind of have an advantage on the incline, I think sometimes they just don't have the confidence to attack. Sometimes they're just sitting in, especially when you're used to either Elisa or Feline kind of breaking away. I think they're just waiting sometimes, like, for those 2 riders to put down all the pressure. But I think sometimes you got to take a chance, and if you're a good climber, sometimes you need to go ahead and use this part of the course to your advantage and put some pressure on people instead of just waiting for them to put pressure on you. And I think sometimes that's the way you kind of get used to those efforts, and then you kind of gain some confidence and figure out, like, hey, I can be up there with these girls as well. And then when it doesn't benefit you as much, you kind of sit in the draft. But I think a lot of the smaller riders, they have good power. They can fly up this hill pretty good. And I think sometimes they should use it to their advantage and then sit in on the downhill and take advantage of some of the bigger riders with a little bit more power and just sit in the draft. The draft gets magnified anyway on the downhill when you're going higher speeds. And on this course, you can hit, 40 miles per hour on the downhill. So I think, it's a good strategy to kind of use the terrain to your advantage. Because even though like Elisa and Feline, they can climb well, but they are larger riders, and it does tax them a little bit more, going uphill, even though they both have good power and can climb, with pretty much everyone in the field. But sometimes it takes a little more effort. But either way, I know if you let people stay in their comfort zone, then yeah, you really have an uphill battle then. So like I said, we only have 2 riders, and our strategy was a little passive on day 1. Kind of bit us a little bit, but not too bad. But our strategy was just a little bit passive. And we heard a bunch of people, or I shouldn't say we heard, a bunch of people kind of told us they're just like, oh, Elisa's going to be torturing the field. She's going to break away. But that really wasn't the plan for today. But I think no one believes you when you tell them that. They're just like, yeah, of course, that's the plan. And when we only have 2 riders, you don't have as much help. You don't have as much help to cover moves. It's not a big deal to only have 2 riders. It just makes things a little bit more difficult if you have to cover, the moves of another team. And like I said, I think today the mommies only have maybe 2 girls, 3, possibly 4. I can't remember, but both their top girls that are in this race are both really strong climbers and really strong breakaway types with Feline and Courtney. So they definitely can, hit a 1-2 punch, not only in this race, but pretty much in any race. And as I say that, there's, I think that's Feline going up the front with Marlena on her wheel. I'm sorry, going up the left side with Marlena on her wheel. And this is leading just into the downhill. And like usual, I'm kind of winging it tonight, so I don't have a score sheet or anything in front of me. So some people I won't know, their names and all that. But as you can see here, the speed just kind of ramps up as we start hitting the downhill. Yeah, going 35, with no pedaling, just kind of sitting in the draft. And the wind, if I'm not mistaken, the wind is coming off the right side here, but they're in a little bit of a tailwind now. And then on the uphill, it's a headwind coming off the left when you're going uphill. And as you can see here, it's not all straight downhill. It's kind of like rolling a little bit. It's basically the opposite of the stairs on the left side, or when you're going uphill. Overall, though, this road surface is really good. There's no cars that they're kind of blocked off, so there's no cars that get on the course or anything. It's really blocked off well. I think PRT did a good job of, hosting the event. So shout out to Freddie for putting all of it together. And then you can see here on this steeper part of the downhill, it gets going really fast. A lot of recovery before you make the U-turn and, have to head back up the hill again. Here goes Shawnee on an attack. Forces Elisa to hit about 750 watts. I think it's a pretty good spot to attack too, because it kind of rolls up right here before, I think, taking another downhill, or this might be right before the U-turn. Yeah, this is right before the U-turn. So yeah, just a slight uphill. It's almost like a bowl, like this course. It's shaped like I don't know, almost like it's almost like Rosina Ranch, but it has like a little hook on the end because it's not just the banana shape. It has the right-hand turn at the top of the hill before you do the other U-turn. But it's almost like it's in a bowl. As you can see right before they did that, the U-turn, it was up to 5% uphill. And then right here is flat. You're going to go uphill, and then you're going to have a little bit of a slight downhill before you hit the next incline. Yeah, I hope to get day 2 out really soon. I'm going to probably work on it tomorrow. I have 2 camera angles there, so I'm going to blend the video as best I can. Show all the kind of relevant parts of it. But I can't wait to get that video out. I've seen it already, and it's pretty fun race to watch. But I think next year we definitely have to promote this Omnium a little better, get people out. Both courses are kind of unique to what we do in Southern California, at least for all the like LA area races and Inland Empire, LA, and San Gabriel Valley races. Like, it's definitely not a series that has your cookie cutter four corner crits in them. And this isn't a road race, you know, it's a circuit race, but for us, we don't have many road races in Southern California, so definitely anytime there's a circuit that has, you know, decent amount of climbing in it, I think more people should sign up. It is a far trip, but, you know, it's fun. There's some nice, you know, restaurants and everything in the area. So, yeah, just come out with your team, get an Airbnb or something, and split the cost and, you know, take advantage of these 2 days. Both beautiful courses, no cars, don't have to worry about any of that. And the second one's even better. It was made for bike racing. So yeah, hopefully next year we can get some bigger numbers out here. So yeah, everybody's kind of chilling. Like I said, I think half the field was thinking Elisa was going to be going hard from the beginning and, you know, trying to break everyone. But yeah, every race is different. You're not going to have the exact same strategy every race, and you're not going to have the same legs every race either. And it's a little harder when you don't have like your team with you. You know, it makes a big difference during a race, like all the moves and attacks that people kind of cover and share the load. It makes a difference just keeping your legs a little bit fresher, because when it's in the second half of the race, those the attacks or the breakaway or the final sprint, whatever it ends, like you need as much energy as possible for those last like 3 laps. And when the numbers are a little bit thin and you have to cover more moves, it just makes it harder and takes a toll on your body. And like I said, especially because this was not like an A race for us or anything. This is like, it was a C race. You know, that's why we don't have any numbers here. It's just basically whoever wanted to come. And for us, it's like if I have team members racing, I'm going to try to be there, give them some support, set up a tent, all that kind of stuff. So 4 women decided to race, and we came out for the weekend. But it's really just a training race for us because we're trying to get ready for Tulsa in a couple weeks, the first week of June, and then Baker City Classic after that, which is both of those are 3-day races, but it's 7 races in 6 days. So that's what we're getting ready for. Yeah, they're definitely at group ride pace right now, below group ride pace. So here's something, and I've talked about this in one of the other races, but Tour de Marietta was a big example of it, and this race is a pretty big example. And I hope all the women listen to what I'm saying here. Don't take it personal, but please listen to it. If you are racing any type of circuit or road race where there's other groups out there, especially other male groups out there, like the men's pro is out here at the same time, when the women choose to ride this slow, you're only doing it to yourself that you are going to get neutralized multiple times in the race, because the men are racing hard like from the beginning, and they're going to catch you faster and more times if you choose to ride slow like this. Don't blame the officials, and don't blame the organizers for neutralizing you, or, you know, you coming into the last lap for a finish and they neutralize you because the men are coming. And because a lot of that, this is part of it right here. Like, if you race hard from the beginning or harder from the beginning, you're probably only going to get lapped one time. But if you ride really slow like this, and the men are riding fast, then they're going to lap you multiple times, and they have no choice but to neutralize you during the race. So I think Elisa got tired of it being so slow and, you know, just had a little attack here. Nothing special, just a little move. You can see she's not doing any power right now. But it was just a little acceleration up the U-turn, up to the U-turn. So I think they're racing for, I couldn't remember if it was 50 or 45 minutes today. And as you can see, they got neutralized there, and there's the men coming by. This is only like 2.5 laps in, and the men have like lapped them now. And the men started first. They didn't start second and catch the women. They started first, and they lapped them now. So this is what I'm saying. If you choose to ride slow and do group ride pace, then the men are going to catch you multiple times during any type of circuit race or road race. And it's just you know, it's not a big deal. You can do whatever you want, but I know a lot of people complain about it when they get neutralized. Well, you got to ride faster. If you're riding 14 miles per hour and 10 miles per hour that you guys are doing up the uphill, the guys are definitely going to catch you multiple times. Anyway, sorry to beat a dead horse, but yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. So it's okay if you still ride the way you ride or whatever, just, you know, don't get mad at the officials for neutralizing. Here's Marlena on a little counterattack up there. You see there's 2 mommies on her, so I think there was at least, okay, there's 4 mommies in this race. But yeah, you see Marlena on a counter here. Yeah, so this weekend, you know, I think we had a lot of fun, and the mommies put us to the test, and, you know, we always like to give them a good test as well. And I think we kind of had Linda Cruz sandwiched in between the battles of our team and their team. And, yeah, it was just a really fun weekend. You know, I talked to PC after day 2 and, you know, kind of complimented her. You know, she runs the team, and we know, like, they always have a good strategy. And I told her, like, it doesn't matter win, lose, or draw, or if the strategy works or not, but I know they're going to try it, you know what I mean? And I think it's something that more people need to commit to, you know, myself included, or our team included. Like, sometimes we don't fully commit to some of our plans, and I think they pretty much commit. You know, it doesn't always work out, and yeah, you always have like a person that may go rogue or something like that. And I don't mean truly rogue. I mean that just may not be where they're supposed to be. But overall, you know, they're going to try. And I think that's what I like. You know, that's why I make the videos. That's why I talk about it. I like to see the sport get elevated as a team sport and not just individuals, you know, trying to beat teammates or whatever. You know, like, that's how the average team is. The average team is just people wearing the same jersey, but they're actually trying to beat each other instead of work together. And I think, you know, to a degree, we've helped elevate this sport. We've helped elevate the women's racing for sure, I think. And overall, when you look at it top to bottom, when you look at the 4-5 races and the P123 races, I think the racing is a lot better. And I think it's a lot more evenly contested now. There's different people in the race that have a chance of winning, and I think the races are definitely like smarter. People are smarter with better tactics and stuff like that, and I hope that we had a little bit of influence on that as well. And I'm not discrediting other people. They've been racing a long time and doing race tactics forever, but I hope we just added to those numbers and given people a platform to be able to see themselves. So yeah, I think maybe the men coming by woke everybody up, and they're definitely racing a lot better now. A couple more tactics. You know, shout out to Marlena. I didn't even know she did these attacks during the race. Like I said, I have not seen this race at all. I was there watching it, but obviously when you're live, you can only see it from one point of view. So I did not know she was doing these efforts during the race. And that's Alexa on her wheel, and that's kind of like the LABA's women's team new kits. I forgot the kit company they're with now, but either way it goes, that's kind of like one of their new kits there. It's harder for me to recognize them now though in the race because I'm looking for the blue, and they're on like kind of like a multicolored kit with different designs on it. I'm gonna have to tease Alexa. She's at the front of a race, putting in a hard effort. Okay, there she goes, back to herself now. She's like, I ain't gonna be pulling too long. Then Elisa tries to counter here. Yeah, so I think it took them 20 minutes to wake up, but like I said, after the guys went by, everybody's a little spicy now and starting to put some efforts in and kind of challenge people. The one thing that's for sure is racing is hard. It's just simply hard. Even when you're really good at it, it's still hard. It's one of those sports that it never really gets easier. You just go faster. The better you get, you just go faster, but it doesn't get any easier. And there's Linda there with Butcher Box. Linda was out here for the most part solo. She has friends in the race that can kind of help her a little bit here, but for the most part she was solo this weekend and she did a great job. So yeah, you can see just by the numbers Elisa's doing, like this pace is fast. 18 miles per hour when it's 3%, 4% grade is a little different than on the flats. But anytime you're doing, especially in like a women's race, anytime you're doing like 250 watts or more, that's like a pretty hot pace. 250 watts, like to some people may not be like a big number, but it is. And when you're talking about, the average bike racing woman that's 110 pounds up to about 160 or 170 pounds, 250 watts is a lot of watts for someone that's, smaller. And when they're doing a lot more than that, those are really hard efforts. So that's Feline there putting the hammer down. I love the way Feline rides. Like I've said it before, but she's always aggressive. And I don't mean in a negative way. I mean in a completely positive way. She's an aggressive rider. She's an assertive rider. I can guarantee you she's going to be racing her bike and she's going to be off the front at some point. That's one thing I will always bet on if I have a chance. I would always bet on Feline, taking some flyers and, putting some pressure on the pack. And I knew today would be no different whatsoever. Courtney was a little bit of a wild card for me. I know she's strong. I've seen her race. I've seen her win races at the 4-5 level. I know she's a breakaway rider just because of her size and being a breakaway rider. I know she can climb, or I knew she could climb. But the only thing is she's just moved up to P123 races this year. So I wasn't exactly sure like how strong she'd be against like the stronger girls. I think she had a good race at Chuck Pontius, which maybe was the first time I seen her in a P123 race. And that was a pretty fast race. And I believe she came in somewhere in the top 10-ish or top 12. I can't remember what position she was. I believe it was maybe a top 10 finish. And just being in a top 10 finish, that lets me know that, yeah, she's going to be strong in this field as well. You see Feline flicked a couple times, but like I said, our goal this race was not to be too aggressive, especially early in the race. Being that we only had 2 girls, it's hard to like be really active and cover some of the things, especially like I said with Marlena just coming back to racing, not knowing what type of legs she has. She's been training, but it's different just training opposed to racing. And getting married, there's a lot of days missed and stuff like that just because you have to do wedding prep stuff and marriage type stuff. So, that's, she wasn't exactly race fit at this time. And then Boulevard was nothing but a confidence killer for everybody. Unless you finished in the top, whatever, it was a confidence killer just because that heat was so big. I mean, so hot, and the race was so hard that, yeah, you really didn't know where your legs were at because you didn't feel good at all during that race. And there's Marlena on a counter there. Like I said, I didn't even know she was this active in the race. I thought she's just sat in the back basically the whole race when I was watching it. So I didn't even know these counters were ever there. And like I said, this part you're close to 40 miles per hour on this section of the course. And this is Courtney and Feline here. Like I said, I knew we were a little bit in trouble with them too. Like, they're both really strong. Our girls are both really strong as well. But, like I said, I'll give credit where credit is due. And when you have people that are really strong, they're going to definitely make the race fun and challenge you. And you're going to find out where your legs are at when they're in the race. I've said this in some other videos before, but I coached football for a while, and I coached college football and have a national championship as a college football coach. But it's something, just a football saying, and the saying is that the other team's on scholarship too. It's like sometimes you have strong riders and people think they're like guaranteed to win, or nobody else is as strong as they are. But, it's just a cliche that the other team's on scholarship too. All of the girls out here, they train. Everybody does. Everybody's strong. And anyone can challenge you on any given day, It's like they say in the NFL, any given Sunday, like any team can win. And it's pretty much the same in bike racing. Like, just depends on who shows up with good fitness, good leg, good tactics. And they're going to definitely put pressure on you. Definitely a lull in the action now. But I think this situation right here is one of those situations where some of the other girls that aren't as active, and I think sometimes it's just like I said, they don't have as much confidence. I think this is one of those situations where one of them should counter right now. Because if you think about it, the kind of big dogs have been up front for half a lap, which is a couple miles. And this is where they're taking a break. So you saw that, Elisa was active, Feline was active, Marlena countered, Courtney covered Marlena on the counter, and now one of the girls that I haven't mentioned yet in the race should probably attack. It'd be a perfect time to attack because the girls that are strong, that have proven that they've been strong for over time now, I'm not saying that they're the favorites or anything, but they've been there and done that. They've been at the front of races and they've won races. Even Marlena and Courtney both, they won like Cat 4 races and stuff. And Courtney has now won, a pro race, and Marlena's been on pro podiums. So they've all proven that they can run up front. And I think, like I said, one of the girls that kind of no one's worried about or looking at should definitely attack, right here when everyone's trying to rest. But I think it's really just a confidence thing. People fear that they won't be able to recover. And you got to trust your fitness sometimes. You will be able to recover. If you've been training, doesn't matter how you feel right now. If you're tired, everyone else is too. That's why they're going 14 miles per hour. But yeah, trust your fitness. You're going to recover. And you don't have to give an all-out attack. You just, you can test the water sometimes. Just put a little pressure on other people. It's kind of like playing poker. Ellen and I used to play poker like we ride bikes. We were all into it. Tournaments all the time. We've won a lot of money in poker. We've lost a lot of money in poker. But we've played poker for many years. And the name of the game in poker is putting pressure on your opponent. It's really uncomfortable. When you're sitting there and your opponent's putting pressure on you, it's uncomfortable. It makes you nervous. It makes you get into a defensive mode, and you start making mistakes. And cycling's really no different, especially on a course like this that's really hard, has really challenging terrain. Putting pressure on your opponent is, like one of the keys to victory here. And even so, even if it's not for victory, it does, it can lead to your opponent making a mistake. And that's kind of the name of the game. And the more fatigued someone is, the more likely they are of making a mistake or quitting. All of these hard efforts your body tells you, as a survival instinct, your body tells you that, it wants to quit. Your body wants to quit. So I think we're down to only a couple laps to go here. Not even sure how many, but I think we're down to a couple laps to go. There's Shawnee on an attack there. I think she should have attacked earlier because people had a lot of time to rest now. Could not see the lap counter. But that's a good attack by Shawnee. It's a strong attack. She's still going up there. But yeah, I think she should have did it at earlier in this lap. Like I said, when people were trying to rest, when everyone was still tired. And I know she was probably tired too at that time. But that's the thing. When everyone's tired, that's when you can break people's spirit. You just go and it makes, people want to quit. And then you just figure out who's going to quit. So Shawnee's attack really stretched out the field there. And you can see it's still stretched out. I think that's Feline up front, again, putting pressure on the group. Just trying to snap that elastic. I think this might be, I can't tell who this is right here. Is this one of the PRT or SDBC riders? One of the PRT riders. And, it's hard to tell. I said we only have a few laps to go, but honestly, I don't even know how long these laps are. I was thinking, I forgot this is a lapped race. So they're doing 12 laps. I was thinking it was a crit for some reason, and I was thinking that they're racing for 50 minutes. But yeah, no, it's a 12 lap race, and I'm not sure how big each lap is, how much time each lap takes. Yeah, so that 12 laps, I think it's a little over 40 miles. And there's, I think, Courtney on the counter. Marlena's trying to cover it there. And I think one of the CFT riders, I think that's Morgan. They definitely got the speed up. They're probably doing 36 miles per hour. I know Elisa's doing 34, but, she's behind the group right now. So, yeah, maybe they were doing about 33. Because she caught him at 34, and then Feline launches a counter. And this is what you do. This is what you can do when you have teammates right here. Is again, put pressure on it. Put pressure on everyone. Don't let them rest. And I don't mean don't let them rest at all, but it's calculated. It's time. And if you notice, they're putting pressure right now on the fast section of the course, on the downhill section. So this is where normally people try to get some recovery to go back up the hill. But yeah, when you make them work on the downhill and knowing that the toughest part of the course is coming up, that really puts a lot of pressure in people, and that really plays with their psyche a little bit. So that's Alexa that covered Feline with Linda on her wheel. Alexa and Linda work together a little bit too. You know, they're friends and know each other. And um, uh, Linda was on LABA a couple years ago before she went to Europe. So she went and raced in Europe and then came back. And yeah, she's doing well with Butcher Box. We're going to see them in Tulsa also. Butcher Box has a squad in Tulsa, and Linda's on that team as well. Alexa and them are going to be in Tulsa also. Alexa raced with us last year, and she did Tulsa with us last year, did a great job. She was definitely one of my strongest racers last year. Super smart. You know, we think of her as like family now, and her family. We spent a lot of time with them last year, had some fun trips and everything. There's Feline, again, putting pressure. You know, like I said, that's what it is, pressure. And see, Alexa had just covered it. So now you see how it's a little harder to cover? It's a little harder each time, especially when you just covered on the downhill where it's super fast and you got to put a lot of power down. So again, you see it's the speed is up, the power is up. And I think if Elisa attacks right here, it snaps the elastic. I think the breakaway's formed right here if Elisa attacks. Because right now Feline let up a little bit, so probably Courtney's going to come by. Like I said, I haven't seen this, so I don't really know what's going to happen. But again, someone should attack right now because the road's going up again. They just put in some hard efforts on the downhill. Everybody wants to rest a little bit. Someone should attack right now. And it's really hard to do because, you know, your body wants to breathe. Your body wants to catch up on that oxygen. Your muscles want to buffer some of that lactate out of the muscles. I know everyone says lactic acid, but technically it's actually lactate flooding into your bloodstream because your body wasn't able to process it fast enough. Lactate gets processed really well at lower intensities. It's actually a fuel for the cells, and it's one of the preferred fuels from for the cells, but typically the cells can only process it at low intensities. And when you hit high intensity, it produces more lactate, but your cells can't process it fast enough, so it has to have somewhere to go, and it gets pushed into the bloodstream, and that's why your legs start feeling that balloon tight feeling. It's not technically lactic acid. And I know somebody's going to say, he's stupid. Yes, it is. Everybody says it's lactic acid. Yeah, I expected a counter and no one's countered. So what do I know? Yeah, this is definitely a tough course. I think it's perfect for what we need for just getting more training in, get some different terrain in, especially for Baker City. Baker City is going to be a really tough race for us. If you don't know about the Baker City Classic, it's up in Baker City, Oregon. That's actually Ellen's hometown, small town of 10,000 people out in the middle of nowhere, but it's actually a really big race. Everyone in the Northwest pretty much does it, all the big teams. But it's really difficult race. It's 4 races in 3 days. So the first day is a 70-something, like 78-mile road race with about 3,000 feet of climbing, I believe, 3 or 4. Not too bad because it's stretched out over, almost 80 miles. Then day 2 is a time trial in the morning and then a crit at night. So 2 races in the same day. And then day 3 is just about 90 miles road race with about 7,000 feet of climbing. And then to top it off, it starts at like 3,700 feet, so it's a little bit of altitude to begin with. But yeah, it can reach up to 11,000 feet. So the last day for sure is a true proper mountain top finish. They finish up at the ski lifts up there at Anthony Lakes. But yeah, it's a great race. Baker City, Oregon. That's going to be like June 20th through the 22nd or something like that. So we're going to go to Tulsa for I believe it's the 6th, 7th, and 8th in Tulsa. And then we'll be in Baker City 2 weeks after that. So yeah, Feline's been on the front for a while. Alexa's been on her wheel for a while. They've been in this position now for almost a full lap, because I think they got in this position on the, halfway down the downhill right here. And I forgot, I know I mentioned it earlier, but yeah, on the uphill is a pretty stiff headwind. Tailwind on this section, uphill headwind. So, when I say they're going 14 miles per hour, sometimes it's still a pretty good effort because of the uphill and the headwind. So that's Courtney that goes by, gives Feline a little break. She didn't come by with the big attack. I think they just had a little conversation real quick, and, being halfway through the race now, or at least halfway through the race, I'm sure we're in the second half of the race now. Yeah, people are starting to fade a little bit. The good thing too, like I said, the numbers are about 20 people in each race these 2 days, and everybody's really fit. Like no one really got dropped during these races. And with as hard as they are, and with the elevation gains per lap, usually it gets really strung out. Not everyone, but multiple people typically get dropped. But everybody came in with some good fitness and were real competitive, and for the most part stayed together in both races. Alexa's doing a great job covering moves right now, just kind of surfing from whoever's in the front and kind of sitting second wheel. It takes a little bit of energy, but it's actually a lot smoother than, surging in the back, trying to, be on and off the gas. It's a lot smoother just to be able to control your watts and keep a steady pace. She's probably only riding tempo or something. So you see Elisa is sheltered from this side because, like I said, the wind's coming from the right. So she was just tucked doing 38 miles per hour, no pedaling, saving a lot of energy here. So I think the mommies are kind of controlling the peloton at this point. You have Feline and Courtney has pretty good control over the race at this moment. And these are very important points in the race. Like when you can control the group, like I said earlier about pressure, it doesn't even matter if you win or not. Obviously, that's the ultimate goal. But finishing a race is the hardest thing to do. And I don't mean just finishing. What I mean is, finishing off your job. Finishing off and getting the victory is the hardest part of the race. All the work that they're doing is super hard, and you have to have like fitness and the ability and the race IQ to be able to control the peloton. But sometimes it's for naught. Sometimes someone times it well, gets a flyer, gets a jump on the sprint, and they end up winning, even though you controlled like the race. But I think it's a very important thing, and it's harder to do than people think. But it's clear right now that the mommies have control of this race. They are putting the pressure on everyone else. They are dictating the pace. If they want to slow it down, they can. If they want to speed it up, they can. And that's a great job. Like, we've done it multiple times this year. It's no secret. I'm not giving it away like any team tactics or anything, but the thing we'd have to do better is we didn't finish some of those races the way we wanted to. But I can think of at least 4 or 5 races where we completely controlled the entire peloton, dictated like a lot of things, covered a lot of moves, never let things get away, all that kind of stuff, and just came up a little bit short on our finishing strategy, which again is the hardest part. Those last 2 to 3 laps, That is the hardest part of bike racing. But the more that you can control the race, the better chance you have of dictating those last 2 to 3 laps. So like I said here, we're only going 11 miles per hour, but I did forget that it is not only uphill, there was a stiff headwind at this point. So as you can see, Lisa's in the draft doing 250, about probably 200 to 250, which means Courtney's probably doing, she's a little lighter, so she may be doing about the same. But those are hard efforts. That's not an easy effort. Even sitting in the draft doing 200 watts, yeah, Elisa can do that easily, but it's still 200 watts. And like I said, in the women's field, because of people's weight is a lot lighter, 200 watt efforts are usually fairly decent efforts. I'm sure all of the girls in the race can do that easily, but it's not like a complete rest. Yeah, Courtney also is really smooth on the bike. You know, I'm impressed. Like I said, she moved up from Cat 4, and don't get me wrong, I knew that was just, you know, she was just passing through the Cat 4 field. But still, you know, it still is what it is, and super strong, super smooth. I don't know how long she's been racing and all that kind of stuff, but definitely impressed with her so far. And now that she's moved up to the pro field, I knew she was strong enough, like, you know, physically strong enough, aerobically strong enough, but I didn't know how she would race, how she would adjust, how she'd handle surges, and how she'd handle like other people's power. But she has no problem, you know, just jumping right in and you know, kind of being at the front of races. So there's Felicia there. Again, just kind of monitoring, getting in the mix. You know, wanting to stay closer to the top, to the front now. I know, like, we are definitely getting limited in laps. You know, Felicia and Morgan ride for us sometimes for the CBR series, basically. So they guest ride for us, and then they ride for CFT full time, and really appreciate CFT even loaning them to us, basically. You know, Felicia has been with us from the start as a guest rider. And I've talked to her for years about coming over and joining us, even before, you know, basically since we've met her, and really appreciate them. They've opened up their house to us, so we stayed with Danny and Felicia this weekend. So yeah, this is what I was talking about. Great job by Alexa and Linda both, like, attacking here. You know, I don't know if this is a preem or not, but still, it's a great job attacking. And this is what I was saying earlier, like, yeah, somebody else should put pressure once those attacks slow down. Somebody else should counter it. So it was a great job by Alexa starting that attack there. Linda continued on, and I think this is where the elastic snaps right here, which is awesome because I did not know who started this break at the time. So I think, you know, honestly, it would be great if they would continue this through this U-turn, because people are uncomfortable making U-turns. And if they could have carried this through this U-turn, I'm pretty sure there would have been decent separation here. Not sure if that was Shelby that went by right there. Yeah, there's so much of this race, like, that I knew nothing about. So yeah, I think Shelby. Well, I don't know for sure if this is Shelby or not. I can't remember who was all in the race. I think maybe Shelby and Maria was in the race, but I don't see any tattoos, so it's probably not Maria. But yeah, this is the setup right here, if I'm not mistaken. I think normally this is setup. Feline and Courtney are just kind of recovering right now and waiting to make a push, waiting to counter this move. So got someone at the front setting the pace, setting some tempo. Not really too hard, but not a little hard, but not too hard. Just hard enough to where it discourages people from attacking, but also doesn't blow you up and doesn't blow your teammates up either. There's a lot of subtle like strategies that people have to account for. You know, everyone talks about doing like making moves or countering or attacking. And the how part is, I think, what people miss sometime. And, you know, even just blowing up your own teammates sometimes is an issue. And sometimes people think of it as a macho thing. Like, oh, they weren't strong enough. I was so strong, I cracked everybody. That's really ineffective. That's not a flex. It's not a flex to blow up your own teammates. Especially if you're trying to pull off some type of strategy, like a lead out or something, and you just kind of smash everybody and your team can't do anything with it. That's like not a flex. So you see there's a couple elbow flicks there, but Elisa's not going to come through. She's not just going to pull the peloton just to pull it. Everybody's still together. And like I said, there's Feline on the attack. Elisa did a good job of just jumping on it immediately as far as reacting to it and getting her speed up. But also, that's one of the things that's hard to do. When you're sitting second wheel, it's really hard to get a jump there. So Feline blew that turn there, just overcooked it, which will let Elisa, Elisa took a better U-turn there and was able to just ride right back up to her wheel there. So, kind of sucks that Feline got it wrong there just on the U-turn. But, she's strong enough that she's still putting the pace on right now. And that's why I was saying earlier, if they would have carried that speed through that first U-turn, I think they could have got a little separation before the downhill. And then the downhill is so fast, it's really hard for people to catch on that downhill. And even if you do catch, you have to put in such a hard effort. So there goes a counter right there. Can't see who that is. That's Marlena trying to cover the counter. Can't remember who that was on the counter, though. I'm guessing it was Courtney. Just can't really see. Can't tell if that's, Marlena covered the move up there, and I think that's Linda and Alexa in between. Yeah, Linda's fading back a little bit right now, and Alexa's still pushing through on the side. But I think Marlena's already up there with whoever that was that broke through from the mommies on the counter attack. So, yeah, good job for Marlena covering. Like I said, I didn't think she was covering when I watched the race, and she never said anything. So it wasn't Courtney, so maybe that was Maria that took off. But, yeah, Marlena didn't even tell me she was covering these moves. I had no clue she was covering them. I thought she just sat in the entire race. And to be honest with you, I even said, like, hey, you kind of didn't come to play on Saturday, I thought she just, was really passive on Saturday. But, hey, this is why we have film. This is why we get to watch it and really see what happened later. Not only that, Marlena covering that move, it would have been good for her to counter also. You covered it, just go ahead and counter. Definitely people wouldn't have expected it, And now, as you can see, Lisa counters here. And with Marlena on the front there, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm on the left side of the course there watching. And I think this is the move that snaps it and creates a breakaway. Because Marlena sat second wheel and let the brake go. And I think it was one of our mistakes, not to call Marlena out on anything. It wasn't communicated to her. We did want Elisa to get in a break late. The only thing is Marlena probably should have went with the move just because it was Feline and Courtney and Linda. And because we know both Feline and Courtney are really strong. Linda's strong as well, but she's solo. So that's just like even. But with Courtney and Feline, they're teammates. So if there's 2-on-1 for us, we'd rather have someone else in the mix also. So I think Marlena, instead of sitting second wheel there, she probably should have snapped and covered the move. Not covered the move, but went with this break as well. Because like with this dynamic, when you have Feline, Courtney, Elisa, and Linda, like as far as I know, Linda's not a real breakaway rider. She's strong, and I'm sure she probably can be a breakaway rider, but I haven't seen her do that before. I haven't seen her solo breakaway. So I'm not sure what her like long power is, her long sustained power is. And I just know riding style wise, usually she sits in and conserves energy. So with this dynamic, it basically puts us 2 against 1. Because both Feline and Courtney are pretty aggressive. They both have strong, long power. I don't know why there's someone walking on the course right there. But yeah, they both have strong, long power, and so does Elisa. So out of these 4 riders, more than likely Linda's going to sit in. She's not going to do all the work with these girls. That's just not like her riding style, and I don't think it's her strong point here, especially on this course. I think she has an advantage on the more of the sprint finish on this course against these 4 riders. I think she'd be more of the sprinter. So yeah, you got these 4 here, and I'm pretty sure they're by themselves now. Obviously, you can't see behind us, but I'm pretty sure it's just them 4. I think it's just Feline, Courtney, Linda, and Elisa. Excuse me. So yeah, they're going pretty good. It's not real hard. Feline's not trying to kill herself. I think she wants Elisa to come through. And at some point, Elisa will. I just don't know if the peloton's still with them. So there goes Courtney. So yeah, I think it's just them 4. And I think the mommies are going to be applying the pressure here. And like I said, I think Linda's just going to be sitting in, which is smart. It's smart for her to sit in. The only thing is for the other 3 girls, if one rider's just sitting in and not, not covering or whatever else, then I think the smart thing to do is attack that person. Which, of course, the mommies are doing now, and Elisa's trying to do the same thing. She doesn't really want to pull too much with, being outnumbered here. But then you end up going to be forced to cover every move. And it's a really hard situation when you're 2-on-1. It's a really hard situation. You either cover every move, or you're going to be forced to attack yourself and try to isolate yourself against one of those other riders. Okay, so there's Felicia. So they're not in the 4-person break yet. The group is still there. But I know I was there when the break started. And it's going to start in the fashion that I said. I know, when the 4 go off the front, Marlene is going to help the break actually get started by stopping the peloton. But like I said, I think she should have went with it just because we're outnumbered. All right, come on, Feline. I gotta give you a hard time now. That's 2 turns. You took too wide there. Yeah, it's really weird how this is downhill right here, but like I said, the course is kind of a bowl, but it looks uphill. So there's Marlena on a little attack. I shouldn't say it's a full attack, but just putting pressure on the group, getting the speed up there. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this is where that break ends up going. This is where the break finally goes and the elastic snaps. Because I remember this was the setup. It was on this side, and Marlena was up front and kind of slowed the peloton down once the attack went. I was trying to steal Alexa back to a faster me. I told her, hey, come over. What do I got to do to get you back? But honestly, you know, Damon and I talk a lot from LABA, and Damon's the one that sent Alexa to me to begin with. He's the one that told me about Alexa last year when she was looking for a team. So she was really going to be with LABA last year as well. But, you know, just it was late in the season, or the season had already started and stuff like that, and I had room on our roster. So, you know, I had a conversation with her, and she came over and joined us. I think Feline just downed a bottle of ketones right now, getting that energy back. And yes, I'm just messing around. I have no clue what she's drinking. All right, again, somebody should be attacking. This is 100% group ride pace. Oh, that's why, because they're neutralized again. Yeah, I think that was the break of the pro men, because they had a breakaway like the entire race. First it was 4 or 5 guys, and I think it was down to 1 at one point. And unfortunately, I think they caught him with like a lap to go. Maybe a couple laps to go, they caught him. And if I'm not mistaken, then he went again, tried to break away again, you know, with a couple laps to go. So yeah, the men I think did 14 laps and the women did 12. But they've lapped them now twice, so I don't know what lap we're on. I'm trying to get an idea of what lap we're on, but I think I need to put one of those graphs up where it shows the distance you've ridden, and then that would let me know like how many more miles are left, and then I can easily say, oh, it's a 3-mile circuit and there's 1 lap to go or 2 laps to go. But I think I have a lot of stuff on screen to begin with, so maybe I could take the temperature down and put the distance up. I don't know. I'm sure somebody will suggest something that I ignore. So there's Shawnee again going on the break. I'm sorry, on the attack. And again, I don't know if those are preems or not. I don't know if there's preems. I think Elisa wanted to attack there, but she kind of got boxed in, and Feline countered. So if they keep it going here, but like Feline's letting up, but I think if they keep it going around the U-turn here, like again, like I said, people take the U-turn so slow. Let's see if Feline takes it better this time. Come on, Feline, I'm counting on you. Oh yeah, that's better. Maybe she just likes this one better and doesn't like the one at the bottom. They definitely have the speed up a little bit here. They're going faster than they had been previously coming through that section. And like I said, here's a little bit of downwind, downhill, downwind, or tailwind. I think Feline tried to look back a little bit to see if they had a gap or not. And I don't recall. Like I said, I know the break is going to happen at some point. Started on the uphill, but I've been wrong every time that I thought it was there. And I don't recall how long they raced, so yeah, I have no clue what lap we're on. I know one thing though, it's late at night right now, and I wouldn't have done this video. I thought it was a 50-minute crit, and we're an hour and 10 minutes in. Just my head was thinking it was 50 minutes for some reason. So there's Marlena again, just sitting here. I can't see to the left, but I think it's one of the mommies to her left there. Looks like her and Elisa's having a little conversation. The quiet before the storm here. I thought they had, just going off memory, I thought they were in the break for longer than I thought, at least, because we definitely are still getting down to only a few laps to go. I know I've said that a couple times, but that's when I thought it was a 50-minute crit. Or 50-minute race. So if you guys don't know, I've talked about this before, and people get this wrong a lot. It's kind of like with the crit course. The crit course is not your normal four-corner flat crit, so a lot of people think it's not a crit. But the crit course, it is a crit, but this is the circuit race, and some of the elements of a circuit race is a certain distance, which I believe it's like more than 2 miles a lap. And a circuit race is a lapped event. So it goes by laps. It doesn't go by time, and it doesn't go by distance. even though they may say you're going to race 44 miles or something like that. If it's a circuit race, I think officially it has to be determined by laps. So 6 laps, 7 laps, 10 laps, whatever. Even though it may be 44 miles, it's not officially a 44-mile race. It's officially like in this case, it's officially a 12-lap race. It won't be, it doesn't matter if it ends up being 44, 42, 46, whatever. It's a 12-lap race. Now, a crit race is a timed event. So a crit race, that's why we have 30-minute, 50-minute, 40-minute crits. And they never say, oh, we're doing a 10-lap crit or we're doing a 7-mile crit, because a crit is a timed event. And that's just one of the characteristics of a crit, like when you go by the rules. It's usually less than 2 miles per lap, and it's a timed event. Now, it may end up being a certain distance, and it may end up being 10 laps or whatever, and they may know ahead of time that it's about 10 laps, but officially it's a timed event. So they're going to do 40 minutes, and then they're going to kind of estimate how many laps you're going to do within those 40 minutes, and then put up a lap counter just so they can communicate to you that there's 4 laps to go. And those 4 laps to go usually will kind of correlate to the amount of time you're doing. But then if the group either picks up the pace or slows down the pace, then it ends up being more or less time than what was originally stated. And that's why sometimes you'll have a 40-minute crit and it ends up being 38 minutes, and people complain about it and say they cut us short. Well, it's not that they cut you short, it's that the first half of your race was slower, so they thought you would do fewer laps, and they put out the lap board, and then you picked up the pace and did those remaining laps at a faster pace, so you finished before the 40 minutes or 50 minutes, whatever it is. And then a road race is a distance event. So a road race is 7 miles, 10 miles. It won't be 7. It's going to be bigger than that. But a road race is, 60 miles or whatever the case may be. Even though it may say you're doing a 12-lap road race, technically it goes by distance for a road race. So those 10 laps or whatever doesn't have to equal anything specifically, but it does need to be 60 miles. If they say it's a 60-mile road race, that might be 9.5 laps, and the flyer may have said 10, but it's actually 60 miles. And that can be on a circuit, it could be point to point, it could be out and back, it could be any combination of those things, but it's a distance race. So crits are timed, circuits are lapped, road races are distance. And that's just the general thing of it. There may be some slight rule exceptions or whatever, but most of the time those are the actual rules. And then sometimes promoters and other people in the sport don't actually know those rules, and they just will say, oh, there's 10 corners on this crit, so it's not even a crit, it's a circuit. It's not true. It's still a crit. It can be 40 corners and it still be a crit race, as long as it's less than 2 miles, a timed event, all that good stuff. It's still a crit. And it doesn't matter how much climbing's in it or whatever, it's still a crit. So yeah, we definitely been cruising for at least a half a lap now. And like I said, Courtney's really smooth on a bike, not a lot of wasted energy. Yeah, no chance at me seeing the lap counter. I don't even know what side it's on. And I don't know if it's digital or analog. The analog ones are easier to see for me when I'm doing videos. But I think they had a digital board, if I'm not mistaken. I saw a digital board this week. Oh no, they had analog. They had a digital timer with an analog lap counter. I think I could get laps on the screen also. I think there is some lap data that I could throw up. I just gotta play with it and find how to add the lap counter. Yeah, I'm definitely getting sleepy. I got to get up early in the morning too. The things I do for this sport. And I know sometimes people are like, oh, why don't you edit the video? Why don't you cut it up or whatever? That takes more time. And if you even if you cut up the video, you got to watch it first. You have to watch the whole thing to know what you want to put in the edit. So it's not like it does not save time for me to shorten the video. It saves time for you watching it, and that's about it. But again, I like I said, I like the sport of cycling. I like all the little tactics, even when it's boring sometimes. You know, that's the complete sport, and I like to show the complete sport, not just, you know, the dynamic stuff and the highlights, and give people a false sense of what racing is. I think a lot of other kind of YouTube channels definitely give a false sense of what something is, and they only show the glory days. You know, they show themselves sprinting and all this stuff, and it's like people get in their head like, ooh, that's cycling. And sometimes they don't know, like, no, it's a struggle. And there's a lot of moving parts to it. It's not just, you know, you think you're fast and you're going to come out here and be uninterrupted running fast laps and win races or whatever. It's competitive, there's strategy, there's people in the way, you know, and all that stuff takes energy. So yeah, I like to show the raw aspects of it. I like to show the entire sport. And, you know, I think it helps, and I think it's, well, I know that a lot of people have come up to me over the years, and, you know, some have said they started racing from watching the videos. Some have just said they learned a lot, you know. And a lot of these people were new to the sport. They're way stronger than I am. I never claimed to be like a strong rider or anything like that. But I do think I have some things that can help people. And, you know, hopefully that stays true. And, you know, hopefully we contribute to the sport and grow it a little bit. I know I've definitely learned a lot from watching some other people's videos over the years. It's just, unfortunately, it's kind of, you know, it's a thankless job. And I don't mean that for me. I mean just in general, for people to keep putting out their videos. And I know a lot of people that record and never put their videos out, and they want to, but it's just like they don't have time to edit. They don't have time to match the stats up to where it's in the right spot, you know, and we all have families and jobs and stuff like that. So I think sometimes it's just, it ends up being more than people think it is when they see people put out videos. And all right, Feline, you got to get those corners better. But they see people put out videos, and they don't realize how much goes into it. You know, even a regular, like Ellen's videos, their races are usually 30 minutes. Even that 30 minutes, to put out a 30-minute video usually takes me like a few hours to get everything correct. To download and process the video, add the data to it, add the voiceover to it, you know, process that, upload it to YouTube, fix it and put the description and the links and all that kind of stuff, and then post it. Yeah, it takes many hours to do that. Even like if I didn't do the voiceover, if I just did the stats and uploaded it raw, that still takes a few hours. And like I said, I have 5 videos this weekend to process. All right, there's Courtney on the counter. This looks like a pretty strong attack here. She definitely got some momentum, and it's pretty much at the steepest part of the course. You saw that was 8% on Elisa's, on the pitch there. Yeah, this is definitely a strong attack, and I think this is the one that breaks the camel's back. And like I said, I was there on the left side, and I remember Marlena was sitting second wheel and kind of slowing the peloton down. But yeah, Feline ended up getting on either Linda or Elisa's wheel. And yeah, I wish Marlena would have just came with this one. It's okay though. Like, we wanted to be in a break. We knew a break would be there eventually just from the nature of this course. Didn't know how many people would be in the break. And the only difference is, yeah, we'd rather be against, individuals instead of against a team. There's Linda coming through there to add and aid in the chase. Yeah, Courtney put in a really strong attack here. And like I said, she did it at the right spot. Being smaller, going at the steepest part of the course. She already has a lot of power to begin with. So then the power to weight's going to kick in a little bit more even. But as you can see, Elisa's in the draft still doing, well over 300 watts. Linda's putting in a good effort here to kind of chase it down. It's good that they're working together to kind of get back to her. And Elisa puts in a pretty massive effort here to kind of, just bridge it. Courtney flicks, and Elisa does come by because, like I said, now they have separation, so they definitely don't want the group to catch back up. At worst, you're guaranteed fourth place right here. So yeah, they're now starting to work together and just extend that break, or extend the gap, sorry. Yeah, and I'm proud of Elisa too. She's worked hard, and she's improved her cornering like a lot. And I mean a lot from like last year. She's improved her racing IQ as well. She's super strong. We all know that. And I just remember telling her at the beginning of the year, I was like, hey, we all know you're strong. You've proven to everybody that you're strong. And this year you have to prove that you're smart. And I think she's done a really good job of doing that. Just learning a lot. Learning how to handle and corner her bike. Obviously, she's only a year into racing, so, she's not going to be perfect yet, but I think she's learned a lot. The strength was never an issue. The aerobic capacity is never an issue. But I think the cornering improvements and the racing IQ has improved a lot. And it's, it shows. And even in the big races like Redlands and Tour de Bloom, she's not at a point to where she's a front runner in any of those yet or anything like that. But just finishing and being able to compete in those races, and even getting a top 15 finish in the Redlands crit is like a huge deal, And I guarantee you a year ago, like, yeah, even though she was physically strong enough to maybe do it, she definitely wasn't, tactically savvy yet. She definitely couldn't handle her bike well enough to do that a year ago. All right, there goes Feline on an attack or a counter. Linda did a good job of covering it. Yeah, so the girls are working hard, working together. I think Feline came through on like a counterattack, but they are working hard. And you see Lisa's not pedaling. I think Linda should tuck as well. Once you, like I've said this before, but once you're going a certain speed, like it takes so much power, more power on a fast downhill section to gain like a mile per hour than it would to just tuck and use free speed. And I think sometimes that trade-off's not worth it. Your cadence has to be really high as well because you're running out of gears. So not only are you using a lot of power, you're kind of spiking your heart rate if you're trying to pedal to gain that little, fraction of a mile per hour. And sometimes it's better just to get really aero tuck and let your momentum take you down the hill. So yeah, like I said, Elisa's been really efficient on these U-turns, which are hard. U-turns are not comfortable. It's not something we do a lot on a bike. And so unless you practice them and really get used to like just cornering concepts, they're really not, they're not common sense. They're not real easy. They're not real comfortable. And they're very easy to get wrong. I know I've said this before, but I go over all the cornering stuff with my team, do the whiteboard sessions. I think people underestimate like the impact that can have. Obviously, you got to get out and actually practice them also. And you don't have to do anything so specific. You can just do it on within your regular training rides. Just be more intentional when you come to turns of where you're putting your bike. And it goes a long way. So anytime I see one of my girls really blowing a turn, like, it really frustrates me. And yes, I do tell them about it. Even though it happens, like, I'm not talking about someone blowing like one turn or anything. I'm talking about just not handling your bike with intention. Yeah, I think it's time right here that Elisa and Linda need to be real selfish right here. Just because they're outnumbered and both riders are really strong. It's different if you're outnumbered and one of the riders aren't as strong, because then you can just isolate the stronger one. If the one that's not as strong attacks, sometimes you can let it go if if they're not gonna have the ability to seal the deal. But since both Feline and Courtney are really strong, yeah, I definitely would play it a little safer if I'm out there with them. Either I'd play it safer or you got to attack them and try to crack one of them or just isolate one of them. The issue is, though, then Linda kind of becomes a wild card also. So for Linda, I do the same thing. You either kind of sit in or you have to, at some point, thin the herd a little bit and reduce the number down. Yeah, I got to give it to Linda also. I think when I was watching the race, every time they came by, she was just sitting in. So I didn't know she was contributing as much as she is. So hats off to her as well by, taking her pulls and contributing in the breakaway. All right, can I see someone shaking the bell over here? This is going into last lap, possibly. I think so. I think this might be the last lap here. Thought I saw someone shaking the bell. Yeah, much better, Feline. I think Feline just doesn't like that U-turn at the bottom. Because this one here, she does okay. The one at the bottom, she just gets wrong like every time. I mean, she could be doing it on purpose, letting people through. I don't think so, but yeah. But either way, she does a good job at the top, and it's not so much at the bottom. But I think there's also better reference points at the top one, just because there's cones and the island in the middle kind of gives you a good reference point, and it looks a little bit different on the bottom course. There's still cones and everything, but it looks different. So maybe she just doesn't have like a good reference point of where to turn in at. Yeah, so it's definitely cat and mouse time. If this is the last lap, I think it's definitely, you got to have a plan by now. Especially you've been doing so many laps on the circuit, 12 laps. So you've had 12 times basically to kind of figure out where you want to go from. Where's a good spot? Yeah, I'm not really certain if this is the last lap or not. I think so. I think this is the last lap. Definitely saving energy right here. So what do? Do you sit in or do you try to attack? Do you wait till the hill and try to attack? Like, what's the plan? So let's see how Linda takes the U-turn here. A little bit wide. So yeah, maybe they still have one to go. Yeah, I think they might still have one to go. Yeah, when I match up the power data, I thought Elisa was leading here on the last lap. But yeah, maybe this is the last lap. I don't really know. I'm confused. Yeah, I don't think we have enough time to do another lap, so I think this is the last lap here. So they have like a really good gap on the field, so they don't have to worry about the field catching them at all. Like I said, Marlena kind of ran a little interference to let the brakes separate. And then, like, I saw the whole body language of the peloton. They just kind of sat up. So they knew they were racing for 5th place now. really cat and mousing it. I think this is a mistake too. Just letting it go this slow. It's kind of dangerous because if somebody really gets a jump here, you know, they're hard to catch. So yeah, it looks like Elisa tries a little attack right here. I don't think it was a full gas effort, but either way, it's a really long way out. And I think she just got the timing wrong a little bit. She told me she got it wrong a little bit. And I think she thought this was the finishing hill. So then when she realized it wasn't, you know, she kind of backed off a little bit, knowing that she had a lot more. It's a lot further than she originally thought. And of course, Courtney countered right there and, you know, got just a huge jump on her. So yeah, I think that was like definitely some missed timing right there, little lapse. But, you know, it happens. That's just life. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. But I think the good thing is, and, you know, I've been saying it a lot, is like you want to make mistakes aggressively, you know, and yeah, she just couldn't recover here to get back up there. Linda comes by and gets second. So Courtney takes the victory, Linda gets second, and Elisa gets third, with Feline coming in fourth right there. I think Evelyn got fifth and Marlena got sixth in the bunch sprint. Yeah, so thanks for watching this long video, but definitely stay tuned for day 2. It's very exciting. I think you guys will enjoy it, and it's on a very unique crit course, purpose built by the Olympic Training Center. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.